attended one, well, you're in for a treat today. This is a 1-hour class. It is truly all about how to use a tool. I realized that several months ago, I had bought a new piece of equipment, and I had been interested in buying it, but I didn't really know how to use it. And I thought, I bet a lot of the people with the 7-Minute Life have at some time either purchased a planner or have thought, I really wonder what all of these things are. So this is truly a deep dive into the philosophy of how the 7-Minute Life Daily Planner is going to make a difference in your life. I think you'll be surprised at how different it is. And for those of you that have been using it either a really short time or a very long time, I think you're going to discover some things that maybe you didn't know. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I am here. John Arnold often is with me, and he and I talk regularly. He's working on a big project that we have coming up, so I know you'll miss John. So I am going to be attempting to look at the chat and stop and have some interaction as we go through. But if for some reason I'm talking and you're not seeing my screen, please start blowing it up that, hey, you say you're seeing your screen, but we can't. So this is an exciting time. The reason I'm using a green screen is that I am isolating in Hot Springs, Arkansas with my 92 and 85-year-old parents. And I'm in their guest bedroom that looks like something from the Brady Bunch in the 80s. So it's a great day to be here. I'm going to go ahead and jump right in with how the 7-Minute Life, I think, the daily planner, which is our tool, which started all of this, can truly make a difference in your life. So I've got the chat over to the right. Make sure if something happens and you can't see what's going on, let me know. And please be interactive. So how do you use the 7-Minute Life Daily Planner? This is the tool that created it all. And I'm going to walk you through how it's helped me and some of the features and benefits of it, but also parts that most of you may not know that really are key to getting started with it. So I am going to move into the class. All right. The reason I created, and by the way, if you have comments as you're going through this, I love a good amen or that's me, or, you know, kind of keep me going that you're really with me. But all of this started, oh, and by the way, you can say happy birthday. My birthday is July the 7th. I'll be the big 60. So I'm excited about that. All right, well, at 43, all of this happened because I had been a financial advisor for, well, I started at the age of 22, so for a long time. And at 43, one day, I just woke up and I realized that busy was killing me. And I don't mean kind of killing me. I mean, it was that overarching, I can't do this anymore. I've got too much going on. And that's when I realized that as I started becoming aware, I was really living in clutter. I felt like I had chaos around me, that I had distractions and interruptions. Now, I'm not seeing amens in the chat yet, so I'm hoping that I am not the only one that has gone through these things. I was disorganized. I didn't have focus. And the outcome of that was that I felt overwhelmed, stuck, frozen, and exhausted. And the bottom line was not only was I unhappy, but I became unhealthy. And so I created the daily planner because every day has a start time and every day has an ending time. And I needed a tool to help me create what I call a written daily plan of action so that I could become, and these are really important words, so I could become intentional for what I wanted my day to look like and my life to look like. So all of those things began to take on a much bigger piece to me. When you hit 45, I think that all of a sudden you realize that life is short. I'm in the middle of my life. I want things to be different. And I had found myself with anxiety, stress. And one of the words we use a lot is that I felt like my life was on a raft in the middle of the ocean. I had no control over the circumstances around me. And I felt like life was just taking me wherever it could. And I didn't want to live like that. I wanted life to be more purposeful and more meaningful. And so I created these tools for myself as a middle-aged woman. For those of you that don't know me, and by the way, Photoshop can do great things, and this picture was just a few years ago, but I think it's important for us to relate as humans that you know me a bit at the 7-Minute Life. We're a real community that you reach out and you say, hey, these are my problems, and I'm facing the same thing. And so I started writing a book called The 7-Minute Difference. That's where it all started. And I know you probably can't see this, but it's about taking small steps for big changes. So I want to encourage those of you that have struggled with procrastination and distraction that the 7-Minute Life isn't about making huge changes. It's about making those tiniest of changes that can make a huge difference in your life. Well, after I created the 7-Minute Life Daily Difference, I created a how-to guide. And that's what we're talking about today, is this how-to guide. But then people really wanted to know more about the journey of purpose and meaning. So that's where it came from. Just as a little history of me, I've had 10,000 hours of training in time management, and I've done more than 500 presentations. A lot of those have been webinars just like this. It's part of my passion. I've been very grateful that the books that I have created have sold 130,000 copies, but there are a lot of free resources on my YouTube channel. The YouTube channel itself has had more than 1.7 million minutes watched. So be sure to go there. Now, I don't know how many people in here are in sales, but as a financial advisor or as a business person, this is not just a little bitty tool. This is a tool about improving your life, but also about increasing your sales, re-engaging your people, getting on a common language. And so here's how it all happened, is that I created this tool for me, which is where a lot of good ideas. I was living in chaos. I was going to bed late, getting up early. I never felt like I did enough. I had a lot of guilt around the things that I was trying to do. So I created a tool, and all of a sudden my life became better, but my business revenues went up. And so if you're a business person on this call, or really anything, business needs structure. It needs a framework. And so when my business grew, people started saying, hey, what are you doing? And it was just conversations. But then I became a sales trainer for Morgan Stanley. And we did some piloting classes. So this is where I think it can translate to everyone on this call, is that people without any of the training, without any of the time management or goal setting things that you're going to see today, we're up 14% in sales. And it's really easy to measure sales commission. So they could see that, and that's great. But the people that truly took time to put a stake in the ground and say, I'm going to take 7 minutes to plan out my day. I'm going to create some kind of framework about knowing how to do that. Business is really impacted. So it's not just about personal things. It's also about how you can truly grow your business. But that's not really what we're going to talk about today. So I'm wanting to make sure that you can see my screen. Again, I'm going to be trying to keep up with the chat, but if you guys can just go in there and say, hey, yeah, we're seeing you, and we can understand what you're saying. If you'll just pop into the chat and let me know that you can hear all of this. So I'm going to kind of keep my eye out on the chat. I have, all is good. Thanks, Donna. you know, when I first started doing these, I thought, you know, you've got to put on some kind of show and entertain people. But what's really true is that people want information. They want to know what's happening and how they can use things. So we'll keep this really, what do you say? Engaging. We'll have a conversation. So this is what I began to realize, is that I wanted to simplify my life. And so we created a tagline that is prioritize, organize, and simplify. And for those of you that, look at that green screen. Okay, well, I'll try to keep it down here, but right here, this logo is on everything we do. So prioritize has to do with our personal lives and also with our business lives. As you look at this image, we see people all the time that have so many things going on that they feel like their life is chaos. And they're looking at all these things, trying to figure out what's most important, trying to figure out what they should focus on. And that's what we do, is we help you prioritize on what are the most important things. And we don't just tell you you need to do that. Our tools are going to help you organize that into a fashion, some real frameworks where you can do that and simplify your day down into the few things. So I think you're going to really kick into this. I'm going to tell the last piece of philosophy before we really go into why the daily planner is important. I realize that this is a key piece in everything we do. So if you're taking notes, please put down need to motivation to behaviors to journey. I think this is probably the best thing that we're going to be talking today, and how it leads into the tool that we've created. But I want you to think of a caveman. Caveman wakes up one day and he's hungry. He has a need to eat. Well, like most of us, we all have needs, but we don't always take action on those needs because we're not motivated enough. Well, as the caveman gets hungrier, he becomes motivated to get out of the cave and go get some food. Unfortunately, for most of us, me included, I had a need to improve my time management. It was so painful. I was motivated to improve my time management. For something like 20 years, I took no action. So knowing you have a need is a great place to start, and being motivated is even a better place to start. But we have to move to where the caveman, it became so painful that he went out of the cave into the blazing winter and went and got food for his or her family. So the need is there, the motivation is there, but where do you really find the tools to change the behavior? So now let's translate that into where you are right now. For a lot of us, this COVID virus and the absolute chaos that's going on in our world has caused us to hit a tipping point where we realize what's happened in the past, that we're standing with a line in the sand, and we know that maybe for the first time in our lives, we've become consciously aware that things need to change in our own lives. And we start asking, who am I and who do I want to be? And the planner is going to help with that. And that's probably where a lot of people don't realize this isn't just about time management. So if you found yourself kind of asking these kind of questions, today's going to help. And when we realize that need, we're motivated. And so I'm so grateful that we've had a big response to this, because a lot of people are motivated to answer those questions of who am I, who do I want to be? And somehow, initially, you were all searching for something. And at some point, you either met me or something happened, you Googled us, and you found the 7-Minute Life. And by even showing up for this webinar, you're changing your behaviors. If you don't even use the planner, which I hope you'll use, just taking the action of learning about the opportunities that are out there, showing up today is an active behavior. So we have needs that we recognize, we think about. We begin to look at, is there a 1, 2, 3 step? And I think there is. And all of a sudden we decide, hey, I've been drifting through life. I've let life circumstances take me places maybe I didn't want to go. And I'm now actually not thinking about changing my behaviors, I'm choosing to change my behavior. So the planner is going to help you with tools, with the to-do list, with your 5 before 11. Again, if you're taking notes, the 5 before 11 is where you take 7 minutes to think and you say, what are the 5 most important things I will, and here's the big word, choose to do today. We feel so put upon. We have so many people asking us to do things, meetings, Zoom calls, that we feel like we have no choice in it. Well, we do. And what would happen if you just put 5 things on your to-do list? If you were able to accomplish 5 important things before 11 o'clock over 1 week, you would accomplish 35 important things. It's that simple. The 90-day daily planner is a 90-day book. It's a 90-day planner. What would happen as you go through this class if you could learn to accomplish 5 things a day for 90 days? You would accomplish 450 things, not doing 20 things a day, but doing 5 things a day. So these principles are incredibly important, and they've made a difference in my life. Now, it gets better than that, is that once you have these behaviors, you're no longer limited to just saying, oh, I want better time management. You have the opportunity at that point to say, my life really matters. And I want to be on the journey from this day forward. I want to consciously be on a journey. I want to discover what my purpose in life is. Why have I been placed on the earth? I want to understand not only what priorities I need to focus on today, what to-dos I need to prioritize, but I want to know what's most valuable to me and why that would drive. And I want to make a commitment and live with clarity. This is something we could have a whole class on. And I want to live with conviction and determination and excitement. So I'm going to stop before we go into the actual tools. I'd like to just take a breath. I'm going to take a sip of water. What are you seeing in this slide about how all of this not only affects time management and the choices you make about what you're going to let into your day, but how do you feel about wanting things? I'm just going to take a breath and if you will, go into chat and say, yeah, this makes sense. This is something that I want. It's a little bit adds up to a lot. Thanks, Julie. You're so right. Just taking these tiny steps can make a big difference. What are some other thoughts that you have? I know y'all aren't shy. I know several of you that they're in this class. Donna says, I can see how this can work. And isn't it exciting that we're not going to just tell you about it? We're going to give you the tools to do this. So, all right, well, I'm going to move on because it's pretty exciting. Oh, I put this in here. The primary tool and the daily progress report, and all of these things are free, is that the next class I'm actually going to be teaching how to use the daily progress report. So you got to love that. How to use the daily progress report. It's a free webinar. It's going to be next Friday. If you've registered for this one, I'll register you, or I won't register. You'll get an email saying, hey, I want to come and learn some of the more technical pieces. Some of the more technical pieces, but mark your calendar. These are growing. Tell your friends about this, because this is a full-on, here's how I plan my day. So June 19th at 12 o'clock, free webinar on how to use the daily written plan of action. So here's the theory. If you have the planner, my guess is a lot of you don't know why it's 7 minutes. So let's talk about why 7 minutes. So if you'll draw these 4 circles on a piece of paper and put 24 in the first circle, that there are 24 hours in a day. And one of the things that we forget is that we can't change that. They're just 24 hours in the day. And I see a chat come up. Denise says, will we receive a recording after each webinar if we register? I've already missed a part of this today because I had a business call. Yes, I will be posting them, but Denise and anyone else on the call, if you will email me at info@the7minutelife or at Allyson@the7minutelife, I'll personally make sure that goes out to you. So great question. They're 24 hours in a day. So if you have these 4 circles, this is why 7 minutes, the theory. That breaks down into 1,440 minutes a day. The simplicity of this is, what would happen if, remember we were talking about needs, motivations, behavior. It's the behavior that begins to change things. What if you would decide that life matters enough that I'm going to physically put a stake in the ground and I'm going to change my behavior, and I'm going to take 1% of my time every day. So 1% of 1,440, I think you can see where this is going, is 14 minutes. Whoop, 14 minutes a day. And you're going to learn and choose, and today you're going to see how it works, but you're going to take 7 minutes in the evening and 7 minutes in the morning. And I mean, you're going to physically take your phone, set a timer for 7 minutes, flip it upside down, and begin to think through what is important. And so what do you do during that 7 minutes? So here's the first thing that, and that's why these classes are going to become more and more important, because the first thing we have to do is learn how to think again. And I'm putting myself in this same bucket. We are all so busy that we walk in the office, we look at the chaos on our desk, and we just start grabbing things, whatever's in front of us. And we don't really stop and think and then begin to plan. What am I going to do? So during this 7 minutes, you're really thinking about it. You're clarifying. You're beginning to ask some very important questions. And here's the first thing you do with the planner, is during that thinking process, you ask a very important but simple question. What is my goal for today? What is my goal for today? And then you think, you know, and it's not easy to do. I will tell you that it sounds really easy to take 7 minutes to think, but it's a process that has to be not only chosen, but also really learned. And so Joni is saying, will you be doing a seminar again? I'm being pulled out for a meeting. Yes, Joni, if you can reach out to me, these are classes that I think are very important. And so reach out to me at info@the7minutelife, or just shoot me an email, and I'll kind of, because I want to make sure that I'm teaching what people need. But these are the very basics of the 7-minute life. So you think, you clarify, you create a written to-do list, and putting it in writing is different than what I call shower planning. Shower planning is when you wake up in the morning, you hop in the shower, and 1,000 things run through your mind. And you hop in your car and you fasten your seatbelt, and you go to the office, you blink your eyes, you hop back in the car, you fasten your seatbelt, and you think, what in the world did I get done? So going through this process is important. So let's say that on average, those of you that are on this call have a to-do list of maybe 15 things. It's pretty common. And it looks very doable, but I'm going to take this and I'm going to challenge you to realize that you only have 24 hours in a day. That's a hard stop. We call it the limited capacity of time. And I'm going to draw these 15 tasks as a line into my day. So here's the first thing on my to-do list. If you've drawn this, go ahead and draw these in as well. This is task 2, third task, fourth task, fifth, sixth, 7th, 8th, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I wish it was only 15. Now, as you see this visually, it takes on a life of its own, but it gets worse. You don't just have 15 things on your to-do list. Those are things you want to do. What about the 100 emails that come in, or the text messages, or the personal phone calls? All of those things, we may end up having 60 or 70 things come into our life. And somehow we think we can expand this 24 hours, but we can't. And one of the key concepts of the 7-minute life, and why you want to think and plan and determine the most important things, and I hope you really, really get this, is that every single action that comes into our day automatically knocks something else out. Every single action that comes into our day automatically knocks something else out. And in my world, it knocks out exercise. Probably the number one thing it knocks out is sleep. And it knocks out a feeling of being so true. So if you can see this little hourglass down here, this is what we call, when things get stuck, we call this the choke point. And when you're living in the choke point, we become frozen and our life becomes hard, and there's a lot of emotion that goes on. There's guilt and anxiety, and we're hopping in bed with our laptop at 9 o'clock, and all of a sudden we turn off our work at 12. And I think that's even worse now that so many of us are working at home, is that it never ends. So just as a clarification, the 7-minute life came about because there are 24 hours in a day. That breaks that down into 1,440 minutes, and that is it. That's all we've got. This is a behavior that is not easy to do, and that's why we have to have this community, because there are a lot of you on this class that I actually know personally, because we have these discussions and we're trying to bring the 7-minute back alive as a community, because even when we hear it, we know that if we would just slow down long enough to think, that we can get a lot more done. And not only would it make our lives better, but it makes other people's lives better. So 24 hours in a day, 1,440 minutes, I'm going to encourage you to take 1% of your time, 7 minutes in the evening and 7 minutes in the morning, to think, to plan, to clarify, to do, and then to execute it. So as I started doing time management, I realized that I wanted more than just getting more done. And as we go into the first section of the daily planner, because I'm promising that in these classes, I want to teach you a lot of things that you just didn't realize were here. This is so much more than simply time management, but I wanted more than time management. I wanted more than getting done. I felt like I needed to ask questions. So I'm going to ask you to possibly write these things down. Is, you know, at what point do we get to where we think, why am I here? And what is my purpose in life? And this is a great time in life to say, what do I really want out of life? And this is a question that someone posed to me that really kind of kicked me in the face when she said to me, is it okay to be happy, Allyson? And I thought, why do we even have to ask that? Is it okay to be happy? Yes, it's okay to be happy. And so if that's the question, then how can I make a happier, more meaningful, more purposeful life? Well, I think we have to stop drifting. We have to realize not only is there a beginning of the day, there's a beginning of our life and an ending of our life. And so I want to encourage you. So here's how the planner begins. If you have your planner in front of you, and we've had a reprint, so some of these numbers are changed. And the planner, I do have it on sale. It's $14. It's not like these are huge commitments of purchasing, but this is not intended to be a sales pitch, but I think you will understand. Again, I'm got that green. Of course, my book is green, so the green screen would be there. But on page 61, this is the crux of what we do, is that I believe first, you have to set your priorities. You know, a lot of people just say, okay, time management, I'm planning my day to day. I don't think that's true. You know, again, what difference, we call this the insanity test. John Arnold, again, one of the content writers and creative people at the 7-Minute Life, says, Allyson, what if everybody on our classes could somehow wave a magic wand and have everything on their to-do list finished? And he asked the question, would it have made a difference in your life? Would it have made the lives of those around you better? Would it have made a difference in the world? And the answer is no. The to-dos, you know, we all work. Work isn't easy. We've got to get those things done, but we need to wrap them around what's important. And so the next thing we're going to talk about is how do you discover your priorities? Not just we know we need them, but what's important to you? What's the point of life? Oh, what page is this again? Rachel, it's on either page 61 or a couple of pages before that, like maybe 4 pages before that. Try 57 and let me know if you can get it. We cut out a few pages of the planner when we reprinted. So as you go through this flow chart, I believe you have to first determine what's most important to you. And the reason you have to do that is that your purpose in life flows out of what's most important to you. And I didn't even have life goals until I was 43. So how can we possibly know what we should focus on today if it's not leading us towards something? And then I began to look at, okay, I was 43 at the time. What am I going to be when I'm 60? What am I going to be when I'm 70? Will I be here when I'm 70? And I broke that timeline into 90-day segments. So these planners are 90-day books. And the reason they're 90 days is that quarterly earnings come out every 90 days, but also the seasons of life, you know, winter, spring, summer, or fall. And it's only then that we start planning today. So I realized that I just didn't want to tell people what they could do and how they could do it. I wanted to create tools, and that's what's in the daily planner. That's what we're going to cover today, is how you can get started on some of these preliminary things before you start. So again, if you have your planner, if you'll turn, I think it's either on page 20 or page 16. Mine's on page 20. The original planners were on page 16, page 20, or it could be on page 16. If you don't have a planner, that's fine. You can certainly follow along. But first, I wanted to prioritize my tasks. I wanted to help people discover their purpose. So we don't just talk about doing it. We walk you through how to do it. I wanted to understand and write down my personal goals. I wanted to understand, and this is a really big one, mental clutter, what was holding me back? And I wanted to be able to write it on a piece of paper. I didn't have to solve it. I just wanted to know what was standing in between me and the person that could be. And then I wanted to physically begin to reaffirm things like what I love to do at work and my strengths. So let's go ahead and start looking at these. Again, it's either on page 16 or page 20. When I encourage people to understand what's most important in life, it is really hard to do that unless you have some kind of a tool. And these are so powerful if you're a leader and you can take these into your staff meetings and just have people, you know, copy it off and take a look at it and say, you know, love is really important to me. I'm teaching a class right now for the development office of the City College of Pasadena. And we have 12 people in the class, and they turned to this page and they just went through, let me make that a little bit bigger. They took an entire hour and a half, their meeting, and they said, here are the things that are important to me. Love is important. Faith is important. Authenticity. And then they had a discussion around that. But let me go back. Think through what it would mean to you if you could take your top 10 priorities, the things that are most important to you, and actually have them to look at. You know, I'm going to go back. To have them to look at and to understand them before you plan your day. And we were also talking that our priorities shift. This is not something that is static. my priority right now is to be in Hot Springs with my family. You know, they're 92 and 86, and your priorities change, but to be able to say, because compassion is high on my list, I want to live a life based on compassion. And so these things push into your purpose in life, and that is on page either 21 or 17. So that's this page. And so I hope, like I promised in this class, that I'd be walking you through the actual pieces and pages, because a lot of people just jump straight to the time management and they don't realize the power of what can happen. So as you turn to that page, your purpose is going to drive out of what you love about your life. It's going to drive out of things that you find purposeful. And so as you look at your purpose in life, again, I think so many people are looking to have this grand, oh, my big purpose in life is. I don't think that's true. I think you can have a purpose for today, and I think we can celebrate that. This class for me today was purposeful. I've so been looking forward to it, and we have a bunch more. I'm doing some for the Florida Realtors Association. We have 200 and 300. Actually, we have 400 signed up for those classes because they're on procrastination and being overwhelmed. Well, that's kind of a fun thing to do. So this is fun for me. But again, what would happen if you took 30 minutes and you wrote down what you love about life and you started thinking about words that were purposeful? It may be being a Little League coach or a Sunday school teacher, or just taking food to some friends. But what I want you to understand is, if you look at this, I don't know why we put this in green ink, but these words here, purpose is very different than what you think. Thank you, Donna, for just ordering it. I appreciate that. But purpose in life. Our purpose in life is what you do for others. So I do hope you'll write these things. Purpose is what you do. And yes, I'll go back and explain that, Linda. What you do for others. Purpose is always outward focused. Purpose is not about us. You know, I said today was very purposeful because I'm teaching this, excuse me, I'm teaching this class to people I believe are on that same journey that I'm on. We've asked ourselves, who am I? Who do I want to be? How can I make a difference in the world? And we want to clarify that. So purpose is always what you do for others. But purpose does revolve around the gifts and talents you've been given. I love to write. I love to teach. It's purposeful for me. And then, as corny as it may sound, our purpose is built on a foundation of love. So I'd love to teach a class on how to discover your purpose, which actually we do teach those classes. But, you know, again, these planners are $14.97 to go through, you know, get a group together and go through and start asking some of these questions I think are important. So let me go back, Linda, and explain these 10 things at the bottom of the page. Is that when I go through, and I don't know that you can see this because of that. I go through and I ask myself, what is most important? And I did this on Wednesday when we had this class. I do it every time I teach a class, but friendships were important to me. Happiness, and that's not a super great word, but happiness is important to me. And I think that goes along with fun. I'm not sure where that is, but you know, I'm 60. I want to have some fun again in life. My parents, as an aside, have a 25-year-old boat because they live on a lake that hadn't been used in 4 years. I had it cleaned up and had a new battery in it and went out on a 25-year-old boat the other day. I had a blast. I was like a kid. We always complain that these people come flying by our house in these boats. And I realized my boat doesn't go very fast, but I floored it. It was just out there at 5:30. So anyway, I want to have fun in life. I want to laugh in life. I also want to live an authentic life. One of the big things that I'm looking for life right now is peace and order. So a lot of these things connect for me, like happiness, laughter, and fun. And so I wrote down, where is it, that the number one thing that I have going on was my health. Because I feel like if we don't have good health, if we haven't taken care of ourselves, and I think that absolutely includes mental health, with everything that's going on, if we haven't taken care of that priority, then we can't take care of anything else. And then for a lot of us, faith will come up. So Linda, what you're doing here is you're just listing your top 10. Family, order, and peace would be on that list for me. So I hope that's helping. And then I physically hold this in my hand. That's why having everything in one place is so important. So I hope that helps. This piece is the next page in the book. In mine, it's page 22. For some of you, it may be on page 18. But again, these things are not easy to do. The 7-minute life is not about just buzzing through things and making it simple. It's about stepping back. The exercises themselves are simple, but I find it a lot easier to do when I'm face to face with someone else, because these things take time. But if you really want to live out your purpose and your priorities in your workplace, then we have to discover what is it we love about our jobs, because we always talk about the things that are hard, but what do you love? Well, I love creating content. I've just created a brand new class. It took me 60 to 80 hours. It was a huge process. And I'm teaching it now for the first time. It opened Wednesday. And so I'm teaching a new 7-week class. So even though it's hard, I loved it. I also love teaching these classes. I love getting to know the people. It's surprising to me that people, it's on page 22, or it could be on page 18, if somebody can look. Again, we had a reprint. We've changed some of the page numbers. Saul, if you'll let me know if you find it. But, you know, we're not going to have time to go through every little piece, but when we know what we love to do at work, we need to do more of that. And in that 7 minutes, we can be intentional about saying, what do I love? Well, let me do that. Also, for some reason, we are afraid to explore our strengths, not our challenges. We're aware of those things, but what are you really good at? Are you good at teaching Little League? Are you good at cooking or gardening? You know, they don't have to be these huge, oh, I'm the most compassionate or the best team leader. What are the little things that you do? And asking other people, what do you do? But I do think, and this is an entire class unto itself, is that at work, we have to decide what's the most important thing. So when I was a stockbroker, the most important thing was selling. I mean, for my living, I had to make more money. I also had to take care of people. You know, the stock market was a very frightening thing. I did a lot of educating and customer service and helping people do that. Well, now as a teacher, I'm trying to do a lot more webinars. And it's important for me to build a bigger audience, as you can imagine, because this work is important. So we're marketing, you know, we're trying to get out there and tell people our story. So when we have that next class next Friday, on the 19th, I hope you'll tell your whole team, you know, this is important things, and they can watch this webinar so they'll get up. This is not a good word. It said, this should be, I'm motivated by, motivated. We need to know what truly drives us forward, and that comes out of our purpose. So as you go through that page, take some time and write down what you love to do at work. And I really would not recommend you do that by yourself. And Denise asks, I have 2 jobs and they are very different. Do you fill in 2 different pages or just choose the overall items? The great thing about this is that it's completely open. I think you absolutely could do two things. They may have overlap, but let me stop for a second and say this. Again, this is one of my favorite things, and I'm going to try to stop and with about 7 minutes left to answer some questions, but Dawson Trotman, and I may not be spelling this correctly, I think it's only one T. Dawson Trotman says, my thoughts, this is something I would really encourage you. It's hard to write on a mouse pad, so I apologize. My thoughts disentangle themselves when they pass through my lips and my fingertips. Dawson Trotman said, my thoughts disentangle themselves when they pass through my lips and my fingertips. And what he meant by that is when we begin to talk about things that are important, we somehow begin to unfilter those things. And when we talk about them, they become our reality. You know, what we say, what we see, who we hang out with. But talking about these things are very important. And so are writing them down. What do you love to do at work? Well, let's say that you love to teach or that you love to be part of a team. Even as you're physically writing that down, you are connecting with that. You're experiencing it. And so be sure to write things down. We have an app that's coming out in about 6 weeks. We've been working on it now for over a year. So even typing that in is good. But you can't just write it down really on your own. You need to talk about it and explore it with people. Again, write down, this is still all on that page. What are your strengths? What is it that you need to focus on at work? Rather than just doing everything in this choke point, there are a lot of low value tasks. We'll talk about this next Friday. And there are high value tasks. And we all know what those things are. So next week we'll be talking about how do I focus on these? And this is the big word in time management. And how do I prune out these? How do I actively say, I'm going to focus on the high value and I'm not going to focus on the low value. So I'm just going to begin to wrap this up, but the next page, I think in the book, which is page 23, and I'm guessing that's either page 23 or page 19. This is another great exercise to do with other people. We all have things in our life that we're just tolerating. We're just tolerating, and I can't pronounce it, but Hershey, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, had a great thing. This is the best way to use this for long projects. I'd love to have you give me a call. In fact, that's something that is surprising to people, is that I actually give out my cell phone number. So it's 870-897-4494. That is truly my personal cell phone number. I love having discussions. If I'm on the phone, the best way is just call me or text me. If I'm on the phone, I'll call you back or I'll text you back. But I want to know how people are using these tools. We won't have time to really go into this, but the next piece of this book on the very next page, I don't know if you can see this, the very next page is personal goals. That would come up later in a series like this. What are your work goals? We can't see them until we write them down. And we can't really understand them until we talk about them. And we talk about them. And they begin to inspire us. And we need to see them. And that's why I've put all this into one book so that I can hold it in my hands. So I'm going to, here's one last thing, and then I'm going to skip forward to kind of the end, is this is a great tool to get things out of your mind and just in a safe place. We call them gnats, that we have a lot of gnats that run through our brain and they kind of spin through there. If we can write down everything that's unfinished in a tool, and surprisingly, we have people that have anywhere from 30 unfinished tasks to 150 unfinished tasks. What they do is they pull us down. It's like they have their claws in our back and they keep holding us back. In fact, Unfinished tasks kind of talk to us, like if you need to go to the dry cleaner and you don't go to the dry cleaners, the next day, it's like that gnat starts talking to you. Why didn't you go to the dry cleaners? Why didn't you pick up the milk? And so it takes up a lot of mental energy. Next week, we're going to be talking about the key tool, the daily progress report. This is where you create your 5 before 11 list. These 7-minute life connections. If you're in sales, that's where you think about prospects that you want to call or networks that you want to be a part of. But I also use this as something to be very intentional about who do I want to stay connected to that's a friend. You know, we just forget. We just forget to call our friends. So I'm not even going to go through all this. If you want the slides, you can just send me an email and I'll give you this. But I kind of do want to wrap up. I do encourage you to get a planner. They're $14.97. We certainly don't make any money on that. But I want to share with you something more. And yes, you can include it into a print calendar. That's something, Mark. And maybe we just need to have an open house sometime and have a Zoom meeting where we can see each other face to face. So that may possibly be of some interest. But let me share how you can help me as a business. We don't make money on the planners. That's a tool that's purposeful for me that I want to get out to people. But I also want this information that I think is very important to be able to go into the workplace, to be able to go into teams where people can explore things on a much deeper level. And so if you know someone that's a decision maker, or if you are a decision maker, and I can't spell that, if you're the decision maker, we are starting a class that starts July 7th, my 60th birthday, I might add, of 2020. That's a 7-week class. And it says it's an hour and a half, but it's really an hour and 45 minutes because we have a limit of 12 people in that class, and we really talk about it. Remember I said Dawson Trotman said, my thoughts disentangle themselves through my lips and my fingertips. And so I do want you to know about these classes. They're $997 if you just want to sign up as an individual. But if you're in an HR group or you have a team or you know your HR person, the class is $9,700 for a team up to 12. So that's less than $1,000 a person. So these classes are expensive, and that is a way that you can help support the 7-minute life. But I'm trying to give out a lot of helpful, useful information. So if you have any interest in these classes that are coming up, I would love to have you do them again. They're $997 a person, and I guess I could probably put that on like a 3-pay or something. Anyway, or they're $9,700 for a team. So that is something that you can help. I'm going to stop sharing. We've got 6 minutes left, and I have learned that it sometimes takes people a few minutes to ask a question. So I want to give you a minute or so while I take a sip of my V8 energy drink. I've got to fix this green screen. But look, doesn't this look like I'm in a nice house? I'm actually in a Brady Bunch 1980s bedroom. So while I take a sip, what questions do you have? And so Mark had a question. Great content, Allison. Could you explain one could integrate the 7-minute life with a regular print calendar? That is so true. This is not a calendaring system, and I think a lot of people get that confused. I do that on a weekly basis. Mark, if you can reach out to me, you've got my cell phone number. I'll put it in chat one more time. And I mean this. Mark and I have had conversations before. Mark, let me put that cell phone down in there. I'd like to explore that. We don't have all the answers, but we have a lot of great questions. 870-897-4494. And I'm serious when I say, you know, call me if you have ideas. So what questions? Rachel, it took me forever to get this set up. Will a million issues, with a million issues, and I missed some things, can we rewatch this later? Yes. I will be posting it on YouTube. And for those of you that register for the class, I'll make sure to send out an email when it's posted. So I'd love to hear some comments. What was the #1 thing that you learned? You know, what are your takeaways from this? Why is this important? And I do want you to share it with your friends. These classes, they're meaningful to me, but I think it's important for all kinds of people. Any questions? Again, I've learned that you don't have to cut it off so quickly. I know some of you need to get back to work. We've got 3 minutes left. I'd love to answer anything you have. Oh, what is the email address? Okay. My personal email address is Allyson@the7minutelife.com. If some of you are in human resources, I'd like to know more. Okay, Vicki, clarity on the pages. Do you need more clarity on the pages, or you felt like it clarified how to use some of the pages? Anthony, I'm so glad. The #1 takeaway is visually presenting how to use the planner as it works. You know, I've never done this before because I felt like people would feel like I'm trying to sell something. I'm trying to help people. I mean, being able to flip through it has, you know, it's kind of like Photoshop. When I'm trying to figure out what button to push, I felt like that would be helpful to know what button to push. So thank you, Anthony. Surprising, every single person is still on the call, listening, waiting for someone. Nobody's wanting to get off the call. I really want to hear your comments. Anthony, I never would write in the planner because I didn't want to mess it up. Well, that's valid. Vicki, I appreciate that we clarified how to use, you know, one of the things that I think may be helpful as I go on through, because the daily progress report is how you keep track. I mean, this is what I got done yesterday. Can you see it if I put it again? That was my day yesterday. So this was my day on Wednesday. I got absolutely nothing done, which is kind of crazy. This is my day on Tuesday. These are the real days, true confessions of what people get done. I write down my 5 before 11. But this was my day on Monday. So you know, I truly can go back to my priorities and my purpose and say, do these things matter? And at the end of the day, I come back and see either yes or no, they did or didn't, and it becomes self-correcting. If I'm working on things that don't matter, maybe I don't need to do those things again. Donna says, I knew it was more than time management. This just reinforces that you really need to know absolutely where you want to go. This is a great system to lead you to your goals. Rachel says, I stumbled on this by accident a few weeks ago in desperation to get organized. Thank you so much for doing this and helping us. That's awesome. I really appreciate it. I appreciate it. Well, we're at 101. So I am going to cut it off, and please help us grow this business. I'll be sending out an email for next week where we just go through the 7-Minute Life Daily Planner. Saul, you have a question. What do you do if you don't complete some of your 5 before 11? Do you write them down for the following day? That's a whole section. We call it a clean slate, that every day that you wake up, this is, and I will take just an extra minute to cover that. Every day is a clean slate. So every day you have an opportunity to decide what you're going to do. And so I don't typically write things until that day, but next week you'll learn that what I do, because like yes, that's hilarious. So like yesterday, I did not get everything done. I got a lot done, but I didn't get all my 5 before 11s done. So today, when I get started, I'll take my 7 minutes and I'll flip backwards. That's why it's important to have it. I go backwards and I say, is it still important to do today? Because every day the things that I need to do change. And so rather than having this enormous long list, I put all those things on an unfinished task list, and every day is a clean slate. So when I wake up tomorrow, I know I don't have those choke points hanging over me. I get to choose that day, and I try to filter it through. Is it important? Is it purposeful? Does it help someone else? What am I grateful for? So I'm so appreciative for all of you. Thank you for being here. Feel free to reach out to me. I want your ideas. Next week we'll be talking specifically about the daily progress report. Make sure if you're inviting friends that they watch this first. And if you can, help us out by letting people know about these classes. There are conferences that I was going to speak as part of that have been canceled, and so some of this budget money for training is available to send hopefully you to these classes and also a team. So this is purposeful for me. I'm so grateful for all of you that were on the class, and I hope to see you next week. Tell your friends. Bye.